I'm honored that you all took time out of your schedule to be with us tonight. State of the Community is meant to also be slash kind of a town hall style, so you know how we do it. We kind of take cards on purpose just so we can get to many questions as possible. Not to take away your voice, but we want to make sure that we can answer questions. We found when we give the mic up, we can only have 2 people who can get questions, but if we do the cards, we can get to many questions as possible. I'm glad you're here. We have a lot of information to share, give you updates on related to our city in 2026 and beyond. And we want to talk about some things in 2025 and 24 as well that we tackled. But before we get any deeper, what I want to do is pass the mic to my colleague, Wardine Alexander, who's president of the Birmingham City Council, who also represents District 7, to allow her to bring you greetings on behalf of the City Council, as well as introduce her colleagues on the City Council who are here. Madam President.
Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. I am so excited to be here this afternoon, and I'm so grateful to Mayor Woodfin for bringing us together for this State of the Community. So many people say, well, we know he gives a State of the City address, but I think it's very good that we get together this evening to talk about what's going on in our communities. And so we're very excited. Hope you participate, you get some great information. But what I'd like to do is also to introduce the other members of the council. The 9 of us represent each of you. We are your voice, we advocate for you, and we legislate for the city. And so I'm proud to introduce each of these colleagues that are here with me this evening. First, we have our President Pro Tem, LaTanya Tate. She represents District 9. We have Councilor Brian Gunn, District 4. Councilor Sonia Smith, District 8. Councilor Darrell O'Quinn, District 5. And we also have Councilor Josh Vasa, District 8. District 3, I'm trying to give you make you all be with the both district. And I believe I see, yes, Councilor Crystal Smitherman is walking in, and she's with District 6, as well as Councilor Clinton Woods, District 1. So thank you all, everybody.
Again, thank you, Madam President. Everybody, we as in the mayor's office, the administration, the professional staff, civil service employees, we can't do our work without the legislative branch of government and the Birmingham City Council. So to each of you and collectively, not only thank you for being here tonight, but just thank you for the hard work you do. There are a few other groups I want to acknowledge. We have a lot of department heads here. If I can't answer a question, they're steeped in their lane as well as the work they do every day. So I want to acknowledge them as well. And then if you are an actual neighborhood officer, president, vice president, or secretary, can you stand? And if you can't stand, wave your hand and be acknowledged. We want to recognize you and love on you. So as I've stood in this room before and stated before, the people that just stood up, they are the crazy people like I am who signed up to take on issues on behalf of their neighborhoods and communities. So I want to thank them. I actually have, everybody, a pretty condensed version of what I'll share today related to a few topics. And then we're going to open it up to anything you want to talk about via your questions. As I've stated, and I'll continue to state, if you strip down what any mayor in any American city does, the first 2 and the main 2 things, and if it was only 2 things an American mayor can do, will boil down to public safety and public infrastructure. Public safety and public infrastructure. I think we know the hard hand we were dealt with as it relates to public safety, crime, violence, gun violence, and homicides in 2024. And those were some significant challenges for the loss of life. And with the city's council help, community engagement, new leadership at BPD, as well as a crime commission that I'll talk about in a minute, collectively, we found a way to address this issue, solve for it, decrease violence in our city. Now, we want to be clear, and I will say it as many times as possible. One homicide is too many. We're not spiking the ball, we're not celebrating, but we are actually acknowledging sincere and serious progress in our city with the decrease of the public safety issues we've had. You know, we ended 2024 with about 153, if I'm correct, homicides. And we saw a 40+% decrease in that in 2025. Now, let me unpack some of that data for you. I know there's a screen for you right here with some information, but I got some additional information. When you look at how we got there in 2025, a couple things happened. You go back to the last quarter of 2024, we did a few things. One is that we put new leadership in place of Birmingham Police Department. So I do want to thank Michael Pickett, who was the chief of police, for his leadership. He then put his leadership team together of strong leaders and his deputies or assistant chiefs to lead in various bureaus in the Birmingham Police Department. And then along with them, the men and women of BPD got very, very aggressive. Thanks to the council's vote and support of $16+ million, they went on an aggressive recruiting plan. And this recruitment plan led to the hiring of 260+ officers in 1 year. These men and women went through vigorous trainings through the various police academy classes they had. And now we find ourselves in 2026, fully staffed. We find ourselves being in a position to investigate homicides, investigate property crimes. So if you look back at what happened in 2025, we not only saw a decrease in violent crime, a decrease in gun violence, a decrease in homicides. What you also saw was that well above a national clearance rate, which averages a little bit above 50%, we actually arrested the people who were harming people in our city. Now, right now, if I did a test to anybody in this room about driving through a suburban city and you picked a suburban city in Jefferson County, that you wouldn't speed, and you wouldn't speed because you feel in your head that you would get a ticket, raise your hand. All right? That's a lot of y'all. What happened in that suburban city is very simple. It's in the subconscious and conscious of people who drive through there that they know if I speed, I'm going to get a ticket. And what Chief Pickett and the men and women of BPD have done, going from an 87% clearance rate in 2025 to, in this year, literally at a 100% clearance rate, is sending a very clear signal. If you harm somebody in the city, you shoot somebody in the city, you kill somebody in the city, you will be arrested. And I think that's important because that's zero tolerance of harming other people through gun violence. So I want to thank the men and women of BPD for their leadership. But the truth, ladies and gentlemen, that is, it's bigger than gun violence. When you have the capacity to be at full strength of having men and women in your precincts of North, East, West, and South precincts, you have the visibility you need and presence to build trust and relationships and rapport with residents and community stakeholders and small business owners. That presence allows you to actually address things in the immediate as well when citizens need to call 911. So overall, what you see is in that first quarter of 2025, you had a drastic decrease from the first quarter of 24, but we're also seeing that trend continue in the first quarter of 2026 with violent crime down as well as crimes against property down, overall crime down 15% compared to the same point last year. So the trend continues. And again, with the City Council's help and support, we want to continue to focus on retention. We want to continue to focus on recruitment and giving our men and women in blue the resources they need to keep us safe. I want to give this mic up for a second because I think this is a good time while we're talking about public safety for our Chief of Police to provide you with any public safety updates that you deserve to hear. Chief Pickett, everybody.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, good evening, everyone. It's really, really great to see we have a absolutely full house, and then we have people still lining the walls. So it's great to see everybody tonight. I want to start really and truly by just saying hats off, and I'm very appreciative of, one, the community, but definitely our team with BPD, and I'm going to go over a couple of tips and some things that are on my mind as police chief that I want to share with the community, as well as give you all some updates on what we're doing and what we're focused on. So for one, we're seeing a lot of people in the community, not just the Birmingham community, but the communities really and truly across the United States that are being scammed. They're getting text messages, they're getting calls, people saying, hey, you owe on warrants, you owe for this warrant, you got this outstanding parking ticket, or you know, you got a warrant for your arrest, and they want you to end up meeting them at a Bitcoin ATM, or they want you to transfer something via Bitcoin. If anyone is calling you over the phone saying something about you having a warrant, if they're sending you pictures saying that they're the cartel, and they're sending you images of people that are severely injured, I'll say. Have any of you all received texts like that? Have any of you received phone calls like that? Okay. That is a national trend of what's going on right now, of people trying to scam really and truly everyone. It's very unfortunate. Last week, we just had an incident where we had to work with 3 other law enforcement agencies in this area, where a young lady, and this wasn't an older person, this was a young lady, that was scammed. She lost over $75,000. Okay? So this is something that it's not just targeting old or elderly people, it's young folks as well. It's middle-aged people, anybody who is overly concerned about trying to do the right thing, unfortunately. So just make sure you're aware of that. Another item that we've been seeing is robberies occurring with Facebook Marketplace meetups. Okay? At each of our precincts, you can meet and do an exchange. We have a safe zone there at our precincts, where if you want to buy something off Facebook Marketplace or off whatever online platform you choose, make sure that you can meet in a safe space. If you don't want to meet at the police department, try to meet somewhere safe, well lit, with cameras, things of that nature, where it's high traffic. If you don't want to meet there, come meet at the precinct. Let us know, hey, I plan to meet somebody here on Thursday at 12 o'clock. We'll be out there in the parking lot waiting on you. Or we can be sitting in a car, you know. So we want to make sure that we minimize our exposure for you all on these predators. Also, just want to let you all know something that we have, an initiative that we started. And if you would, Deputy Chief Boyackel, I want to ask you to stand real quick. Deputy Chief Boyackel is our new Deputy Chief over patrol. And what you're seeing, and hopefully what you're feeling, one of the things we wanted to focus on was our response times. Yes, we did lower crime, we lowered homicides, but we also understand that response times matter. When someone calls 911, you want the police there, and you want the police there pretty quick. And with the city our size, and with our prioritizing of calls, we understand that we can't make it to everybody's house within 2 minutes. We get that. We have a large landscape, landmass in Birmingham. But we try our best to do the best we can. That being said, we know that last year and the years prior, our response times is something that we wanted to work on. Well, as of right now, after Chief Boyackel has come on board, we have a 26% reduction in response times. So the police are getting to these calls and getting to your residents and your complaints faster. Also, TSU, because we have the staffing levels to where we need to be, we're able to now focus on smaller problems. So the TSU, or the Theft Suppression Unit, is based out of patrol, and we have officers now that act as a task force that can essentially address the thefts and the unlawful breaking and entering of vehicles and things of that nature. quality of life issues that we know. It's horrible when you get home off work and you may be a victim of a burglary, or you go to dinner and your car may be broken into. We're working on those things. So we have the TSU, the Theft Suppression Unit, that we've started to address those issues. Birmingham is a huge city with all the major hospitals. We have a level 1 trauma unit here. We have all the entertainment here. So we have a lot of folks that pass through Birmingham, criminals in fact, that are opportunists that want to take advantage of us. So we're doing what we can with the police department to address all those issues. We know our citizens are the best citizens in Birmingham, but we know that sometimes we have opportunists that come in, and we're putting things in place to address those issues. And lastly, nope, not lastly, I got two things. I got to brag on our city attorney for a second. Last year, we said that we noticed an uptick in domestic violence in our community, and it's all over the nation, okay? We've noticed an uptick in domestic violence as it relates to our violent crime as well. Well, one thing that we've done is we've partnered with our city attorney. Not only our city attorney, we just met with her and her team last week, and thank you for initiating that meeting. Yes, thank you, give it up. But not just our city attorney, we're also working with One Place. We're also working with the Jefferson County DA's office, and we're also working with the U.S. Attorney's office. So we have a robust team of all of the spectrum of law enforcement, from the folks that respond to the initial domestic violence call to the folks that will prosecute it at the end. Okay, so we're working together collaboratively to make sure that we get the victims all the resources that they possibly can have access to in a timely manner. And then we'll also want to hold those accountable who choose to put their hands on someone or harass someone illegally. We want to make sure that we address those issues. And our goal is to bring that domestic violence down in our community. And of course, that'll overall bring overall crime down as it relates to violent crime. So that's what we're working on. And then lastly, I want to ask you all, if you have cameras, if you have Ring doorbell cameras, if you have surveillance cameras, please, please, please join us with Connect Birmingham. We will have, where's Sergeant Wilder? This is Sergeant Wilder right here. He has a wealth of information. He has some of these handouts. If you want to, for your business or for your residents, please join Birmingham Connect. You can register with us if you don't want to connect your cameras. I ask you to just register so we'll know on a map geographically, hey, we have camera resources there that we can tap into with your permission or come review if a crime occurs. We're not trying to be Big Brother. We're not trying to watch what you're doing at your cookout. We just want to know that especially if you didn't invite us, we just want to know that we have camera resources in those areas so that in the event that something happens, we say, hey, we can find these folks very quickly. We have 100% clearance rate right now on our homicides, as you all heard Mayor say. Everybody who has taken a life in this city this year has been held accountable. That being said, cameras have been a huge tool in doing that. That is why we use cameras. The thefts that may occur in your neighborhoods, the burglaries, the UBVs, those cameras will help us find out who's doing it and hold them accountable quickly. I've been a victim of having my car broken into and my home broken into. And I wanted nothing more than to find that joker that did that, you know, or at least let the police find them, you know. So allow us to do that. Give us the tools that we need to be able to do that, so that we can make our community safer, not just for us, but also for our kids. So that's all I have, Mayor. Appreciate it. Thank you for your time.
Appreciate you, brother.
Sir.
Thank you, Chief Pickett. Excuse me, everybody. So 3 more notes on public safety, and I'm trying to be pretty fast about them. 1, there's a question about Big Brother. No, we are not sharing information or selling information, and no, for our third-party vendors, they're not sharing information either related to the use of those cameras. We don't hide from hard issues. We don't hide from sensitive issues. We're transparent, so we don't mind sharing that information with you because we know it has been a question. Point two, earlier I told you about a crime commission. So it is to be noted, and it's really, really important to state that BPD alone are not the only people responsible for public safety, everybody. We collectively are, because this is our city, these are our communities, these are our neighborhoods. So the more willing we're all able to step up, it works. And that's literally what happened in 2025. But a part of that, in 2024, a group of community members came together to form a crime commission. It consisted of business leaders and small business owners, and it consisted of faith leaders and community leaders in various walks of life. And within a 90-day window, they kicked out 82 recommendations to the mayor and the council and to the general public for us to lean in on addressing public safety. And those 82 recommendations were not isolated to Birmingham Police Department. It was what we needed to collectively do. I'm happy to tell you all, I believe we've been able to engage 70% plus of those 82 recommendations, which in partnership with BPD led to those drastic decreases in violent crime as well as crimes against property. So we continue to honor those recommendations. They're not just sitting on the shelf somewhere collecting dust. We're executing on the things that community stakeholders said this is what the city should be moving on, using our public tax dollars to address public safety. The last point, one of those recommendations was to create a position to holistically address public safety that was bigger than the police department. So think all matters of public safety. We're happy to say that we hired a young man by the name of Carlton Peoples, who did 25 plus years in the FBI and retired from the FBI as the SAC director for this Birmingham region. So he decided to stay here in Birmingham, keep his feet on the ground, and give back to his community from a holistic standpoint of addressing public safety in partnership with not just BPD, but various stakeholder groups. So I wanted you to stand and be acknowledged and say thank you. Appreciate you. So I'm going to stop there with public safety updates. And if you have any questions about them, we can just reserve them for Q&A. But that brings me to the next point, because I told you there were two things: public safety and public infrastructure. So you look at this slide and you see this big circle in the middle, and you see the number 114. What we found since we've been in office is that there are a significant amount of infrastructure issues, infrastructure complaints, infrastructure problems. And what we also find is that there's not a resource or a dollar amount that exists to address every single issue. Streets and sidewalks and city facilities and libraries and parks and rec centers and police station and police precincts and all the 30 plus fire stations and stormwater and so many other things I'm not naming, lights, etc. But what we found as we collected information from neighborhood meetings and town halls, as we collected information online, what bubbled up to the top in 2017, 18, and on all the way up to 2025, number one was please pave streets. Maybe the word please wasn't in front of pave streets. I want to provide context to you for what the 114 number means. This is no knock on my predecessors. This is no knock to Mayor Kincaid's 8 years of service and Mayor Langford's 2 years of service and Mayor Bell's 7 years of service, which I think if you do the math, that's 17 years. But this 114 million represents more than those three mayors, 17 years combined. In 8 years, we've paid more in 17 years. That's how far behind we've been in investing in our city's infrastructure related to street paving. Doesn't mean we're going to stop, but I also wanted to arm you with information. But I think in this third term, what we want to do is expand our horizon related to continued investments in our city's infrastructure. And so what you'll see in 2026 is and talking with the council, because I know this is important to them, so I'm looking at them now. What do we do? What more investments can we make in our pools? Because our pools need to be open for our citizens. Well, our citizens walk and do other things beyond driving, so what more investments in 2026 can we make in our sidewalks? And stormwater has been an issue. Some of you all sat right in this room where we had an isolated town hall meeting just for stormwater, and we told you that problem, to fix it, is with the letter B, which is the opposite of M, which y'all know we don't have. But we need a plan at minimum first to assess how do we tackle this problem. So we need to start with that. And then you have all these other infrastructure issues around this notion of lights, many that the city of Birmingham doesn't control. It's either owned and operated by the ALDOT, the state of Alabama, or owned and operated by Alabama Power, and we find copper theft, and you wonder why it's just not easy to replace a light bulb. It's because the copper's been stolen out of the actual pole, so it's a process, and it's millions of dollars. And so all of these things, and all of the things you don't see on here, at some point beyond our actual finances of our general fund that we do and or our reserve accounts, we have to put ourselves in a position, and I'm not afraid to say it publicly, it's time to go to the bond market. And it's time to go, or bond market or warrants. Those are fancy finance language words just to say we have to be in the best position to pull in bulk money to address significant infrastructure needs that we have been behind on. The commitment you have from us is that we will continue to make investing in our city's infrastructure a priority. And part of that is not just words. It's putting a leader in place whose sole focus is to how do we plan and execute for our present and future infrastructure. So I created a new leadership position. This young man is a few doors down from me, but every day, every night, in his job for the city of Birmingham, his entire focus and priority is our city's infrastructure. And that young man's name is James Fowler, and his title is Chief of Public Infrastructure. That's how much of the commitment and the priority we made this. So I feel like people know you, but still, please stand and be recognized for that. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, I promise you that's way bigger than filling potholes. Although I know we have to fill the potholes. So we'll save the rest for infrastructure if you have any questions, and we can get into that. I want to talk about another topic I spent a significant amount of time in November talking about, and that is education, cradle to career. Cradle to career is a simple notion that it is not just the school system's responsibility related to K through 12 to educate our children, but literally from the time they're born until they are off in their career post high school or a graduate program, if you would, that we put our next and youngest generation in a position to be gainfully employed and educated in this city. That is not Dr. Mark Sullivan, superintendent of our schools, the principals of our schools, the school board members of our schools' responsibility alone. In partnership with the city of Birmingham and the private sector and so many other community partners, this is the work we have to do. The reason we have to do it is because every employer, every business, community members, for our community's sake, we want productive citizens in our city. And if we're not making the necessary investments in the next and youngest generation, it won't happen. So what that work looks like is scaling up the things you've seen us do. You all are aware of one bookend, the Birmingham Promise. That's millions of dollars have been spent through a public-private partnership to support young people's ability to get internships, apprenticeships, as well as tuition-free scholarships for college. Y'all, that's not charity. That's literally a down payment on our future workforce. The other bookend is very, very important. and this is one of the things I spent significant time talking about in November, and I'll continue to talk about this with the council, is you got to get the foundation right. So the necessary investments with your public tax dollars related to early childhood through a public-private partnership is very, very, very important. I know folks in this room understand what a foundation is. Well, that's birth to five, and we got to get that piece right. But it's also in partnership with the school system, going deeper on all the programs we continue to do and the city council continues to support. But we have to enhance those programs, from mental health and conflict resolution and financial literacy and all the other things I'm not naming around what do we do for our children when they're in school and when they're out of school. Because educating them can never be and should never be isolated to Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 3 p.m., August through May. It's the time when they're not in what we're doing. And so this is very critical work, and there are significant partners in the community already doing the work. What we're going to do is convene and supercharge this work to make sure we can close the gaps in educating our children on the entire trajectory, if you would, from birth until they're gainfully employed. So I got 2 more points, maybe 2, and then I'll open it up for Q&A. One is, you all heard about a program we announced today, again, thanks to the Birmingham City Council, because literally we can't do this work without you. But what we've seen citywide, and this is not an issue isolated to Birmingham as a mid-sized city in our country, but any mid-sized or large-sized city has seen this problem continue to grow, and that is our unhoused residents, those experiencing homelessness. There was a time in any American city that used to be isolated to the central business district of a city. And what we find ourselves in, like other cities, this issue is spread to other portions of our city, and not just the south side, but literally as far as Roebuck Parkway in District 1, literally as far as West Avenue I in District 8, South Green Springs exit, of course north all the way in North Birmingham, and I can go on, other quadrants of town or pieces of town, whether it's southwest, northwest, that I'm not naming. We have to address this issue. I want to tell you that you have a council that's committed to solving this issue on your behalf. It is a very complex issue, ladies and gentlemen, and there is no one solution to solving it. In the ideal world, it's not hard either, but it does take collaboration, and it does take more than your public tax dollars. That may have gone over some people's heads. I want to spend a little bit more time on this. In various forms of our toolbox of addressing this issue, the most important thing we can do is provide housing. But it's not as simple as use public tax dollars to build a house, because I think that's actually illegal. So we then have to partner with people to address how do we do this. Programmatic wise, what do we do for those who may be veterans? Programmatic wise, what do we do for those who may be addicted to drugs? Programmatic wise, what do we do to help those who transition out of state custody? Again, this is extremely layered. How about this? What do we do in Montgomery with a potential bill to hold other cities accountable who are putting their men and women who are unhoused in their police cars or regular cars and dropping them off in our city, or giving them bus tickets or train tickets to bring them here? That's a problem too. If you interact with someone unhoused and you ask 2 simple questions, what's their name and where they're from, you may find that a minimum, I dare say more, but a minimum of 40% of them are not from our city. So how did you get here? This is a very layered, complex problem. But I want to talk about solutions. And there have been a significant amount of solutions. And a lot of these solutions are being led by a young lady named Elena Melton, who's been with the city of Birmingham for a long time. But this has become her not just heart passion, but building out a team and a rapport and with other partners to address how do we solve for decreasing those who are unhoused in our community. So I want you to stand and be recognized for just a hot second. So one solution I want to spend a little bit more time talking about is that she came to me, leadership team, and she came to the council at committee meetings and the council today to talk about something what's called the Oasis. And in this public meeting, I wanted to provide a little bit more context of what this really is about. In benchmarking other cities and doing trips to other cities to see how they tackle and address those who are unhoused, what you find is something very human nature of all of us, whether we are housed or unhoused. Human beings hang out. That's what we do. Those of us who are housed, we may do it in bars and lounges and restaurants or in our home, or we may do it in parks and other public spaces. And then when we're done, we leave or whatever. Those who are unhoused hang out too, and they tend to hang out in public spaces, whether it's a sidewalk or a street corner or a park. And they tend to hang out in spaces where it may be in proximity of a business or residential area or a underpass, restaurant, and you can go on and on. Well, if we know people are going to hang, and if a situation in a particular city block or a particular city park reaches a height of issues or crime, when we move those residents who are unhoused, by nature, all they're going to do is just go to another block or another park. So it kind of just makes sense to do something that's a win-win. One, create an oasis, an actual public space, in our case, 7,000 square feet, if I'm correct, where it's designed for those, whether you're housed or unhoused, to hang. And in this space, you create lockers for people who have items they want to secure and lock up. Bathrooms, if you would. Place for their pets, if they have pets. But also regulate it and keep it clean and have public safety efforts to keep it safe. And in saying all of that, that is not the most important thing of this space. The most important thing of this space is to partner with and work with our service providers. And in this space, be in the best position to build trust and rapport with those who are unhoused to get them to the next level to receive resources and or access to housing, etc. And here's why that's important. We find ourselves every day, and I'm not just talking about BPD if it's a call for criminal activity for someone unhoused, whether it's Elena or Don Lupo or myself, in plain clothes, not in a suit, walking up to an unhoused person and saying, we want to help, we're here to help. They walk away, they refuse, they say no. We can't force help on people. In this entire conversation, what we've been missing is how do you build trust with other human beings? And we believe this oasis gives us the opportunity to do that. While doing that, it alleviates pressure on public spaces, whether it's a park or a city sidewalk or a curve, public curve near business. So this is a win-win for everybody. Another initiative you heard us roll out in the last few weeks was BMI. And no, that does not stand for Body Mass Index. It stands for Black Male Initiative. And I know we have a city that is diverse with men and women and black people and white people and Asian people and Hispanic people. But we're also the 5th blackest city in America. And Brookings did a report a few years back that said a very simple equation: black boys not in school plus black men unemployed equals higher crime. Now that tells me if you know that, and you know the issues in this community, then we have to do something. But I also want to be clear and share and acknowledge the work that's already being done. I don't want to take away anybody's shine or any organization or any person that's already doing the work in that space. Part of BMI is to convene, enhance, and support the people and organizations already doing the work. Part of this is to continue to be in lockstep with the superintendent to decrease chronic absenteeism, particularly among our black boys. Got a call today from a counselor with one of our schools that got some serious absentee issues that end up spilling out into community, and it affects not just that community, but businesses in that community. So fighting chronic absenteeism for our black boys and for our black girls is important when your school system is literally about 89% plus black. I should not be ashamed to say that. It's okay to focus on a vulnerable group that actually needs resources and help. That's okay, everybody. But it's also the black men, those released from incarceration, those who return back to our community, those who may have never finished high school. What do we do to put them in the best position to be gainfully employed? Because we don't need them out here robbing people. We don't need them out here stealing and committing thefts. We don't need them hurting people. Again, this is not charity work either. This is actually intentionally designed to educate our black boys and employ our black men. And if anybody's feeling left out, come see me, because I can explain to you resources for everybody in this city. But this is a very intentionally designed effort, not only to decrease crime in our city, not only to make people gainfully employed and boys educated, but this goes right at the heart of improving quality of life in this city. That is our responsibility. And we do that cheerfully, and we do it in partnership, because this is not just about the use of your tax dollars, but again, enhancing those programs. So I wanted to share that. It is time for me to yield this mic, because Rick Journey's coming up, and he's going to help facilitate the next portion of our time tonight for those who would like to stay in a Q&A. We're going to attempt to get to many questions as possible. Again, we're not going to give you the mic, so we hope you wrote it down. If those who may have a question based on the information that's been shared tonight, raise your hand and we'll bring you one right now. With that in mind, I'm going to stop talking.
No, I'm good with that.
So Rick, it's on you, and we'll go from there.
All right, Mayor, thank you very much. We'll have some folks coming around to grab the additional questions, and we'll go through these. I'll just begin with the first one we got tonight, Mayor. Drug dealers are in my neighborhood, but what can I do? I don't want to get killed for snitching. It's bad.
So that's a really great question. One that I probably want the chief or any of his deputies to come up and answer. So come on up, because the first portion of my answer is going to be quick. I forgot an important thank you. In 2025, part of the reason we were successful in decreasing crime is because everyday residents stepped up. You got tired of your neighborhood being riddled with gun violence, or feeling hostage, or not feeling safe to sit on your own porch. And you know what happened? Because we track data. You started calling 911 more. You started calling Crime Stoppers more. And you started giving more tips. So for those who don't want to call 911, call Crime Stoppers. You can call BPD and not give your name or your address and still give information on the problem child or problem house. Chief, you want to add anything?
No, you hit it spot on, Mayor. We have multiple avenues. You can call the precinct. Nobody will know that you're calling the precinct. You can call our Vice Narcotics Division. You can call Crime Stoppers if you want to get your pockets padded a little bit. If you can give some real information. Of course, the number is 205-254-7777. It's the Crime Stoppers. But I want to highlight someone real quick, and that's Deputy Chief Foster over our Special Operations Bureau, and of course our Vice Narcotics, the whole nine. Last year, our SET team, our Special Enforcement team, which is under his bureau in special ops, they made well over 3,500 arrests. Over 35, that's just that specific unit. That's not patrol. In addition to that, they made over 300 arrests on violent criminals, whether they were passing through our city, whether they were from our city, from another city. That's for, of course, you know, we cleared our homicide clearance rate was 87. So anybody that was responsible for any type of robbery, felony assaults, or murders, we're apprehending these folks. So if you give us the information, you point us in the right direction, I hope you all can see we will take the action. So please call.
Thank you, Chief. Next question, Mayor. What is the state of the Family Fun Center, and when will it be finished?
Great question. I appreciate you, AJ. I love you, AJ. This is one of those opportunities where I get to be overly transparent and vulnerable with everybody. Let me answer the question first. Let me start with a statement. I'm a man of my word. If I say something's going to happen, it's going to happen. I came to this community. I presented. I got council support. Say we're going to build a family fun center. We will build a family fun center in 5 Points West. That will happen. Globally, I want to back out, and then I'm going to come back to this project. As I look back on 21 through 2025 in the second term, what we find ourselves, and this is where the transparency and vulnerability matters. We announce projects, and then a litany of things happen, and then you haven't seen those projects materialize. I don't like it, and I apologize for that. Some of those are not in the city's 100% control. Actually, a majority of them are not. They're public-private partnerships. Look at the McCormick Building, for example, in downtown Inslee. I know I have neighborhood president McCall here of Inslee Community. This is a site that has been under a court order with the judge prior to me being mayor. Prior to me being mayor. That's how long it's been an issue. But the city of Birmingham today, like today, in the last probably today plus 3-4 years, that property does not belong to the city of Birmingham no more. It belongs to a private developer. We have set aside millions of dollars that we're ready to spend when the private developer is in the position to close what we call his capital stack, meaning various funding sources to get to the point where he can go with vertical construction. And post-COVID, with construction costs, post-COVID, with interest rates and a host of other things, it's been a start and stop process. But we've never wavered on our commitment, and that funding that we've set aside, which is millions of dollars to support that project in partnership with that private developer, is still there right now. And it's not going anywhere. It's just taking way too long. And I share Mr. McCall's frustration and all the residents of the Inslee community frustration, because they're like, well, you finally tore the building down, but you also said you're going to give us something new. When is it going to happen? So it's not just at the whim of the city of Birmingham. You think about other projects citywide where we've announced. A lot of that announcement was with a private developer standing right here or right here. The old Inslee High School, same thing. The capital stack consisted of city of Birmingham tax dollars, which, by the way, that money is still there for that project too. We didn't move it anywhere else. It consisted of the private developers' funding, and there was a third source of funding that they needed for this project to be complete. And that's called state tax credits for a historic school. And you have to apply for state tax credits. And I don't even understand the complexity of that, but I will say they not only apply once, they apply twice. And guess what? In both times, They didn't get it. And so if you don't get it, we miss words like this is contingent upon. City's funding is there, private developers funding there, but they don't get the state funding. So after 4 years, we're telling the developer, hey, we'll move on. We go to a new developer. There's no knock on that developer. But we promised these people something was going to happen here. And they looking at us crazy like, why hasn't it happened yet? And the only thing I can tell them is, like you, we're depending on the private developer. So I think in this third term, a couple things have to happen, and then I'm going to get back to the Family Fun Center. It doesn't matter if it's McCormick or Inslee High School or North Birmingham Elementary School or any of these various buildings or sites. If we say we're going to do something, one of two things has to happen for us to stand in front of it. The person got to have all their money in place, or dirt better be moving. And that's the commitment I'm making. So in the case of the Family Fun Center, there's been a significant amount of back and forth. The council approved $15 million, everybody. They approved $15 million. And when we submitted it and we went through all this process, community meetings, architect drawings and all of that, guess what the number was when they came back to build it? $29 million. Where y'all think I'm gonna get $14 million from? So we've been going back and forth on a realistic number so we can get to vertical construction on this building. We now believe we got a number. I got team members that are holding that developer accountable. In this public meeting, I'm not afraid to tell you, because I've said this in a private meeting with neighborhood officers who touch this district and who've been in these meetings for a year plus, that they've told us construction is going to start the second quarter of this year. And once vertical construction starts, it will take up to 300 and how many days? 30 what? 336, 339 days of construction. Let me be clear. The question was centered around the Family Fun Center. It will happen. It has been significantly delayed, and we apologize for that. But I'm a man of my word, and we will have a Family Fun Center in 5 Points West. What's the next question, Rick?
Yes, sir. The next question from Arlington West End. What is the possibility that some of the larger abandoned church buildings in West End can be purchased by the city to be converted to shelters for the unhoused?
Yeah. So we may not do that. How do I say this? We've made removing blight a priority. And then you remove blight, you create unfortunately, a second problem, which is now somebody has to cut the grass. So I'm going to give you a number. I want you to hold on to this number. And I'm not bragging about this number. It's just a crazy number. And I want you to be mad about it with me and then co-advocate with us and get laws passed in Montgomery with your voice to hold these people accountable who own these properties. Because we can't keep spending your public tax dollars on private property. And churches are not public property, but nor are these abandoned houses or these majority of these empty lots. Some of them are ours, but not the majority. There are 15,000 plus tax delinquent properties within our city limits. 15,000. In 8 years, we've spent 15 plus million on blight removal. And separately, we've spent probably at this point a little over 9 million for weed abatement, which is a fancy way of saying cutting grass on private properties. That's almost $25 million of your public tax dollars on private property. You should be pissed about that. I am. I don't like it. I got a reporter writing a note. That's probably going to be the headline. Hopefully that's not the headline. Y'all, that's a lot of money. Think about, can you go back to that slide, the infrastructure? Can you imagine if the $25 million was spent on the stuff your public tax dollars are actually responsible for? How many more streets is paved? Mr. McCall, that's a brand new Ansley Library. How many new fire stations is that? The stormwater, some of the stormwater issues. How many new lights is that? I don't want to keep spending money on private property for people who are not taking care of their property. So what do we have, Madam President? 2, 3, 4 bills down in Montgomery now? 4 bills centered around holding private property owners accountable for their property, because it's hard to keep spending your public tax dollars on slum or people who are abandoning their property. And I know the person who asked that question, like, what does it have to do with buying a church and putting homeless people here or unhoused residents there? It's not 100% correlated. But the point needs to be made. If we're going to buy property, which we just did today via the council's vote, it had a purpose, but it had a design intent. The address where we purchased this oasis, in an 11-block radius, there are a minimum of 4 service providers who engage those who are unhoused. So if we're going to buy property to support unhoused initiatives, it has to make sense. And it may not make sense in the neighborhood, I think it was West End that was mentioned, to go buy an abandoned church and put it there. So it may not be the answer you wanted, but it's an honest answer. What's the next question, Rick?
Yes, sir. Tell us something about what is in plan or place for Ansley Steelworks property.
Well, it's one of the things we didn't talk about today, Chaz. We didn't talk about job creation, economic development. Memory lane, just from a historical standpoint, I think we all know how the city of Birmingham got its nickname, the Magic City, related to its amazing fast-paced growth as it relates to its population. But that accelerated growth was centered around our ability to have these 3 natural resources that allowed us to produce steel. Now, there was some good and bad with that. I think we know the good with jobs. I think we know the bad with that as it relates to some of our communities and health. But you look back on it and you fast forward to 2026, the opportunity that exists in some of these, quote, brownfield sites around our city. By the way, we don't own them. This question was centered around Inslee Works U.S. Steel site, which is a company based in Pittsburgh. The height of this site, there were 34,000 jobs. 34,000 jobs, which I think is amazing. So what does it look like in 2026 and beyond to reimagine what this site could be for jobs? Is it advanced manufacturing? Is it logistics? I mean, you're talking about a site that's in proximity of 3 major rail lines, 2 short rails, 4 major interstates, and an inland port that gets you all the way down to Mobile. It's a hell of a site. Oh, is there kids in here? I'm sorry if it is. Definitely don't make that. Just playing. We have to partner with people who can help us reimagine what that brownfield site looks like. We have a long way to go. But I'm going to pick on Mr. McCall again because he's an Ansley kid. He grew up in Ansley, loves Ansley. He knows the opportunity that exists on sites like that and others. I think the reason we're so bullish on Ansley is because there's just massive opportunity there that we got to execute on. this is the window to do it. Pretty sure I'll be held to my words, but watch us work. What's your next question, Rick?
Yes, sir. A few years ago, there was town hall on stormwater and drains. Can we get a progress update on the mapping effort, the number of drains cleared, et cetera?
Y'all on tag team? You and this young man?
Yep, I'll take a stab at it, and then if I need help, I got some team members that'll help me. That's correct. So citywide, there are over 27,000 storm sewer inlets. So that's a tremendous amount of inlets. And so we did do an assessment of just the condition of those. Were they clogged? Were they broken? Were they missing their lids? And based on the data that we came away with, about 66% of them, so 2/3 of them were okay. But then that leaves a third of them, so many thousands that were not okay, that needed to be addressed in some way. And so if you have submitted a 311 request about a storm inlet drain, I apologize that we haven't gotten to that yet. I want to tell you what we have been doing. So we have 4 full-time crews that go around and address stormwater inlets, and so they're replacing tops. We have 2 jet vac crews that are going around daily, and they're clearing out stormwater inlets. But if we've got well over 10,000 that need to be addressed at any given time, and then just daily more issues emerge as trucks run over those inlets, or as floods happen and those inlets get clogged. So we're just not able to keep up with all of that demand. What I will say is that and I asked our new director of 311, Miss Melanie Colson, if it was okay if I said this, but if you have reported something to 311 and you feel like it's pretty severe and it has not been addressed, so you can call 311 and certainly report it again, but you can also ask to speak to a supervisor. She gets a lot of those calls already and just tracks those things down. And so we're in the mayor's 3rd term working very hard to also revamp and strengthen and bolster our 311 process. So Melanie's helping us to lead that. But if we haven't gotten to your inlet concern, I apologize. One more note on stormwater. Even though we have those crews working on stormwater inlets, we also over the last several years have made some pretty big investments in just critical stormwater issues. So a notable one is 6th Avenue South, where it flooded. So that was several $1 million. We're investing right now in adjacent to Caldwell Park, several $1 million in a major stormwater infrastructure need there. And then also we're gearing up to try to address the Messer Airport Highway stormwater issue, which is a legacy issue that's going to, again, cost several millions of dollars. So we are making major investments in stormwater. One final note is we're looking forward to doing just a more global stormwater master plan in the very near future. So that's something that we're teeing up as well. So anything I missed on stormwater?
No.
Next question. Okay, the next one is from Southeast Lake. The city is a pretty low amount of civic engagement. How are we empowering and incentivizing our neighbors to show up and have their voices heard?
I apologize, everybody. I needed to get confirmation. CPP, Citizens Participation Plan. It's actively being worked on to be revamped. Now, a couple of things exist. On top of the existing CAB, Community Advisory Board, that consists of neighborhood leaders who are actually community leaders, they meet monthly. They meet on your behalf. And then right under that is the neighborhood association that consists of the president, vice president, and secretaries. Many of them who you saw standing earlier. That is, but you do 3 times 99. That's a lot of super volunteers citywide that are putting in the work, and they're crazy enough to meet once a month. And all neighbors in that neighborhood are invited. And the majority of neighbors don't show up. They complain, though. Some of these meetings, there's real power in these meetings. You're voting on who can support a business going in your neighborhood, a speed bump, or another public safety issue, or community issue. I am encouraged by the next generation, though. A few years back, we decided to do a program called ACE, the Academy of Civic Engagement. It was to be intentionally designed to lean in on all walks of life in our city. It didn't matter what zip code, neighborhood you came from. You literally got to look under the hood of City Hall to see how it works. And you went through a whole process where on the other end of it is designed for two things. One, for you to be overly informed and educated of how your local municipal government work. But two, probably more important, which is split. First portion of that being that you are now have to be engaged in what happens at all levels of government, but especially your neighborhood. The other, go pull in a neighbor or somebody in your block or your street. Ed or Josh, anybody, how many people have participated in ACE? 1,400 people. It's a lot of people. And as recent as yesterday, from our 7 high schools, plus I think 1 or 2 of our private schools within our city, they did a kickoff ACE program for high school students. You talk about literally getting the next generation involved at the lowest level of their neighborhood. We're using the word lowest, but it's huge impact. I think on the table back there, this form exists. This is ACE. Now, Josh or Madam President, do you want to say anything about participation, not just in ACE, but just community engagement, period, as it relates to civic engagement in our residents? I'm going to let this young lady go first.
Well, I do just want to reiterate, and I thank Mayor Woodfin, and I thank you for the question. It's something that each counselor, we would like to see more community engagement in those neighborhood meetings. It's a great opportunity for residents to voice their issues so that we can begin to work on the solutions, and really just to get information related to your neighborhoods. I know that each of us, we work with our neighborhood presidents to try to improve that community engagement, and really, we are only as good as we are as neighbors. And so if we could get that participation, it would be very important to us. And I find that ACE and working in that program, it gives you more information about how City Hall works, how each of these departments work. And so I'm always encouraging residents. That's one of the reasons I picked up this one. This will be something when I come to you all in March, we'll be talking about this at our March meetings and trying to get that engagement. And I think this is a stepping stone. When I've worked with residents who've gone with the program and have completed the program, they have a much better understanding of how City Hall works and what they can do to help solve some of the problems and issues in their community. I'm going to let Josh, he's really been the one that's worked with this, and I've had the opportunity to welcome everyone when they've been coming to that. So Josh, tell them a little bit more. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam President. Yes, so ACE is the Academy of Civic Engagement. It's a 7-week program designed to do that, get everyday residents involved in city government and let you know how city government is working for you and how you can be a leader in your own right, whether that is serving in a neighborhood association or just being a super engaged resident of the city. This next class starts in April. April the 9th is orientation. If you're interested in signing up, there's forms back there. There's a QR code on the poster as you come in. The second part of ACE is Code ACE. There's also a form back there for that. It's a deeper dive. You don't have to complete the 7-week course to do that. This will be specific to issues around code enforcement, see-click fix training, that 311 that you need, but it's all possible because of the department heads and the leadership. You get to engage with the mayor, the city council, and department leaders so you know who you're speaking with and who can address your concern when you have it.
Thank you, Josh. Our next question comes from Bush Hills. Can we have an update on Airbnb business licensing and permit enforcement?
I'm not going to put the council on the spot.
We actually have our next committee of the whole meeting. This is where all the councilors meet, and we have presentations, and we do have our next committee of the whole meeting, which is March 12th at 3:00 p.m. And we will be devoting that time to talking about short-term rentals and the information that we need to look at that and create the ordinances, be sure we have the proper zoning and that process in place. So we will be taking that up as a council.
March 12th. Okay. Who's next?
Yes, sir. Our next question is from Lakeview. Two parts to this. Will or is ring footage shared with BPD also shared with ICE? And overall, what is BPD's collaboration with ICE?
We don't share any information with ICE, bless you. Whoever that was, bless you. Right on time. We do not share any information with DHS and ICE, which is one of the agencies under DHS. And, ladies and gentlemen, we have actually no contractual relationship with DHS, ICE. We don't have officers and or BPD embedded in ICE. And the city of Birmingham, as it relates to our police officers, are not a part of any immigration enforcement. Next question.
This is similar to what was asked earlier, but from Hillman Park. Is there any advice that can be given to bring the neighbors aboard to assist in making their neighborhoods better?
Look, I'm spitballing here. But I've been in the position long enough to know that I don't believe that neighborhood meetings used to always be what I'm about to describe. Now, the council is going to check me if I'm wrong. But a lot of what's happened, and I'm not talking about the neighborhood officers here, but for some of our neighborhood meetings, they've turned into gripe sessions. It's 100% complaint driven. You mean to tell me nothing's good is going on in the neighborhood? Nothing cool? Nothing to celebrate? I don't believe that. And when you have several generations beyond what the original mode was of how these meetings were engaged, people go to work and they get tired and they come home, they don't stop at their neighborhood meeting. And if I'm already home, I'm not necessarily want to put on clothes together but go to a meeting that's only complaint driven. Again, that's no knock on anybody here. And I'm not saying that's how anybody here runs their meetings, because I know a lot of these neighborhood officers who stood up, that's literally not how they run their meetings. And so I think that we need to get everybody to the table. And that is not necessarily at a CAB meeting. It's probably a meeting that the council and I are willing to convene and just put all the neighborhood officers in and talk about how can we make these meetings more attractive to people to attend. Does the meeting have to be isolated to in person? Post-COVID, can it be an option online? Will that give an uptick in participation? Is there a way to convene beyond the monthly meeting where we can just socialize? And I'm not just talking about the one time a year where we do, what is it called? The community fun day. Are there other opportunities for neighbors to get together beyond that one time of the year community fun day? I believe the answer is yes. I believe that we know there's a generational divide, I dare say gap, in those who attend. You have a minimum of 2 generations who aren't attending these meetings, but they live in the same neighborhoods. What's our communication channel or communication style to attract them? So I don't know the answer. This is, again, spitballing, but I think it's going to take all of us to get uncomfortable or get comfortable with talking about the hard part of why is attendance the way it is, and what can we do to attract more people? Because I think that's what I hear in the question. You want more of your neighbors to be involved in their neighborhood. Do I have that correct? Can we do it with the current format we have? And if the answer is no, are we willing to change the format? I'm not a neighborhood officer. I believe you have the power to engage other neighborhood officers to say, what can we do? And as we get deep into the CP plan and the opportunity and ability to blow it up and or change it and or tweak it, what recommendations do you have to the legal department and or council or our office, because we're open too? I probably didn't answer your question, but that's what spitballing gets you.
Next question from 5 Points West. Can you address mental health support in the city?
I could. I feel like somebody's way better at answering than me. Councilor Smitherman or Elena Melton, which one of y'all want to take it? No pressure. You heard the question?
Mental health. Well, I know the city, as far as our kids, we have dedicated $1 million to the school system for social workers for our kids. I believe we almost have a social worker in almost every school, which is really good because at first the kids were, multiple schools were sharing counselors. So say, for example, if there was a death at the school, at 2 different schools, then it almost as if the counselors would have to choose which school they would address. Also, Counselor Tate, Madam Pro Tem, and I actually dedicated hundreds of thousands of dollars for both of our districts to have free mental health counseling throughout our districts as well. If you look in the budget book at the back, we give thousands and thousands of dollars to different nonprofits, so mental health agencies as well. And the Black Women's Mental Health Institute, if you go on their website, fill out their consultation form, you'll be able to get matched with the therapist.
Thank you. Excuse me. So a couple of things. JBS Mental Health Authority is the largest authority, that handles most of the mental health issues, to get most of the funding from the state for mental health issues. And while we talk about them largely in the context of folks experiencing homelessness, it is a resource that's available for everyone who's in crisis. They have the ability to see folks and keep people for as little as 24 hours for monitoring if you're in the middle of a mental health crisis or in active addiction or having an overdose or needing drug treatment. They can keep you for up to 6 days legally, and then they can help you get somewhere else. We've also increased our partnership with UAB Psych, and so many of the programs that you've heard about, particularly around folks experiencing homelessness, UAB has been an excellent partner there, and we've also extended our work to start to work with Brookwood Hospital, who actually has the largest amount of beds in the state for mental health resources. And then to piggyback off Councilor Smitherman, we also have a couple of strategically placed social workers. We have one now that is in the Birmingham Public Library. We'll have the downtown library. We have one starting next week that'll be in the South Side branch, and that's a resource that's totally free for anybody that need it. It is specifically for folks, particularly for people experiencing homelessness, but anybody that needs that resource, it's free and available, and we hope to grow that to some of the other libraries. And then last but not least, I was told to give a not so shameless plug to the city's Birmingham Community Mental Health Day, which will be May 8th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at Lamb Park.
Councilor.
Mayor, just to do a time check, it's about 7:23 right now, so I wanted to touch on that.
Yeah, we're consistent, everybody, when we do these. We try to get you out here by 7:30 because we know you've been with us for a long time, and we're testing your patience. So, Rick, if you got a few more, and then we'll wrap up. Council President will speak again on behalf of her colleagues, and I'll speak to close us out.
So this question comes, where can we find information about recycling and specifically textile recycling?
So in terms of recycling, we do have a website. If you go to the City of Birmingham's website and look at Public Works and Department of Public Works, there is a waste section. In that section, it talks about recycling as well. The recycling tab has options for recycling, a link to sign up for a recycling program, as well as other additional information on how you can recycle electronics and other type of material out there. I don't have specifics on textiles. But in regard to a lot of other materials, we do have that on the website available with the City of Birmingham's website.
If you have any difficulty finding it on the recycling, you should be able to go to the main page, birminghamal.gov, and just search in the search bar for recycling, and it should pop up fairly cleanly.
birminghamal.gov/recycle.
Okay. Or you can do that.
Again, that's birminghamal.gov/recycle. Thank you, Shonda.
And this question from Fairview: will Birmingham On Demand be restored to the level it was previously?
Definitely giving this one to an expert. Take your time.
So that's a great question. In the last year, so the cost to provide the Birmingham On Demand service increased pretty drastically. So the BJCTA, they provide some of that service in-house, but they also contract out for a big portion of that. So due to the cost increase, and then also due to decreases in funding that they receive from the federal government that supports their budget, they did have to scale back some on their services. While we don't necessarily have a specific plan to restore those services just yet within the immediate time frame, I will say that we are going through a very large concerted citywide effort to look at our transportation system as a whole, and a big part of that is our transit system. So that's our Go BHM transportation plan, and we're actually doing that in partnership with the Transit Authority. One of the main outcomes of that plan is to have a vision for how we want to sustain and grow our public transportation system. I apologize that those cuts were made very recently, but we are trying to plan for stabilizing and then growing that transit system as a part of the Go BHM transportation plan.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Mr. Chairman, looking at you, sir, is anything you want to add? Of course.
Hey, Darrell O'Quinn. I chair the city's Transportation and Infrastructure Committee. What Chief Fowler didn't say was, he mentioned that for that program, BJCTA contracts with a company to provide those services. That company is called VIA. That's the name of the company. They provide a turnkey service where, previously the city was contracted with VIA directly, but now it's through BJCTA. What Chief Fowler didn't say was that in the past year, the cost of that service actually jumped 18%. We didn't see that coming. And in combination, like you said, with the federal funding being decreased for public transportation, that's the reason why you saw the pullback. One of the things that I will say is along those lines, some of the communities that haven't had access to on-demand microtransit, which is what we call that form of transportation, may see that in the near future as part of another initiative that we're involved in called Recompete, and I'll let the mayor speak to that. Maybe not.
I love you though. Maybe not. I appreciate you, sir. Time, everybody. 7:28. I want to do two closeout. Part one, closeout. I want President Wardena Alexander to speak on behalf of the council. Look, y'all, really, 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 have a tremendous amount of respect and appreciation for this council. You just got to know, outside of your presence, outside of the neighborhood meetings you may see them in or in community, you have some fierce advocates for you, individually and collectively, who communicate on your behalf, not only your concerns, issues, and problems, but your desires and wants and wishes as well. And so I just want to publicly thank them for their hard work.
Councilor Pro Tem.
Yeah, Madam Pro
She has
Tem.
nominated me to do this,
Yes.
but on the behalf of my colleagues, the city council, we just want to thank you all for coming out and spending the evening with us. And we hope that we were able to get some of your questions answered, but if not, the 9 of us are available, our staff is available. And we want to thank you all for coming out to the state of the community. I've sent blessings and a peaceful ride home and safe ride. Thank Chief Michael Pickett for all the hard work that him and his staff has done, and the mayor, as he talked about violence reduction. We did it, we did it, we did it.
Thank you, Madam Pro Tem. Listen, everybody, I want to echo her sentiments. Twofold, well, several. One is, in these settings, we find that we can never get to everyone's question. And so if some folk are still lingering, if you want to come up and ask questions, feel free. If you want to email us your questions, feel free. And we actually still have the cards. If you left information on, someone can or should follow up with you. The second thing, in no particular order, is a thank you. Again, it's late. I'm not sure if you had dinner yet, so thanks for sticking with us. I'm very grateful for people's time and energy and commitment to their city, to their community and their neighborhood. And I want to thank you for taking time out of your schedule, whether you got off work and came straight here or at home and came here to be with us tonight. We hope the information you received today has been helpful. As I think about the way storytelling and narratives work, it's hard work when you actually have receipts, but you got to tell a story 1,000 times. So I do have a request, and I want to tell it in narrative form of what happens when something bad happens in Birmingham. The unfortunate circumstance, a person is killed in our city. What's going to happen is you will see multiple stories. The first story you'll see is a person, a victim, their life was taken. And by the way, that's extremely tragic. It's tragic for their family, their community, and it leaves a gaping hole in people's lives, and I know that personally. But then you see a second story. And the second story includes the victim's name. And then you see a third story. And this third story is a next of kin or a family or friend who talks about this person, this victim. And then you see a fourth story. When these young men and their men and women and the detectives get into it and they snatch that killer off the street. Not one, not two, not three, but a minimum of 4 stories. When things are good and we decrease crime, you see 0, maybe 1 story. Now, it's a rhetorical question. Why is that? But you already know the answer. So my request to you is that you be co-narratives of the good things that is actually happening in our city. That you go spread the gospel of the good things that are happening in Birmingham. It's not all bad. It's not all negative. You got some bomb counselors that are doing some pretty cool things in their own perspectives with their own discretionary funding in their districts on your behalf. Very creative. Tell the story about the good that's happening in Birmingham. That's my request of you tonight. My last request is be safe getting home. Have a good night, everybody. Thank you.